Hello, welcome to the Blue Star Connection. My name is Kelly. Today the topic is flowing with craniosacral. Hope you're all doing well. The summer solstice was this past weekend, or actually a week and a half ago, and I hope you're all faring well and that the heat is not overcoming either. We've got highs of 90, high 90s, and right now it's 87 still at 7:30 in the evening. Anyways, so we're going to start today with the eternal teachings like we usually do, and then we'll get going on the flowing with craniosacral. The eternal teachings by Christopher Timms. Please sit back, close your eyes, and just relax. There is an essence that binds and sustains and is all life. This essence, this living presence, is the oneness that you are. The oneness that you are. Shapeless, formless, and eternal are you, with no boundaries, with no container. You were never born, so you can never die. This is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are, with nothing to grow into, and nothing to become, for you are all life. You are all life. There is no separation between you and me and the air that we breathe, the sun that shines upon us, and the earth that we walk on. No separation at all. Life is all one, always has been, always will be. And this oneness that is the air and the earth, this oneness that is the seasons for the harvest and the laughter of the children, this is the oneness that you are. This is the oneness that you are. This can't be taught to you, for this is to not to be understood. This is only to be experienced, appreciated, and realized. Accept this and be free. Accept this and be free. Accept this. All of this. All of this. And be. Just be. Just be. Just be. Take a nice deep breath in. Blow it out and place your tongue above the roof of your mouth. And welcome. I'm happy for everybody that is here. It's going to be a great session. We're talking about flowing with craniosacral. Again, my name is Kelly. I've been working with craniosacral therapy since 2011. It's been a journey with me and along with my clients. I discovered it while I was still working in the ER, trying to find something that would interest me and be able to help other ways to help people without being in the medical field. And I came upon craniosacral therapy, and it really interested me. So I spent my journey starting to learn how to feel the cranial rhythm, how to just handle the emotions and be able to use my hands, something that was different than what I was used to doing. So along came Cranio, and here we go. So that's kind of how I got into it. Things that, so cranial, I should tell you, it was long discovered before Dr. Upledger, but Dr. Upledger forefronted it more to the modern era, I believe. I may be wrong, but from what I can tell and from different classes I've been into, he was one of the major people that brought it up. I know there were others. And I studied under Upledger Institute, with which was is which what he has. Oh my goodness, tongue-tied. Um, what he had started back in the 1970s, where he looked at kids and started figuring out, how he could help them. But it all started with him in an operation with a friend who asked him to help him do a spinal surgery. And he discovered that there was a rhythm that he never felt before. And that was kind of become his exploration of what that rhythm was and what was it doing there. And so he spent a legacy of his life developing and making a 10-step program on how craniosacral therapy works. Craniosacral therapy is used in many different ways. There are many classes out there for it. You can do just craniosacral therapy 1 and 2, which is just a basic 10-step protocol, which is very effective. And then if you're more interested and you want to learn more, then there's also the somatic release. And each one gives you more insight on how the body works. There's other classes that offshoot from all these, and you can really expand your horizons with all these different classes, from children to infants to maternity to childbirth to speaking what the brain does. There's a lot of ways to deep dive. And then there are also advanced classes where you learn to work with other practitioners with multiple hands. Craniosacral therapy works really well for headaches and migraines. It also helps with chronic neck and back pain, stressors, and I see a lot of migraines, head and neck, back, and stress. That just seems to be what's going around these days. But there's other things like motor coordination disorders, immune disorders, post-concussion syndrome. When I expound on that one, cranial is very good for somebody who's had multiple head injuries, who's had a concussion. There's lots of studies out there that Upledger has got out on their website to look at how the craniosacral therapy works with concussions, just to help relieve the pressure in the brain, to release the tension in the fascia. So there's quite a bit with what craniosacral therapy can do for head injuries. Chronic fatigue, it helps relax the organs, fibromyalgia, TMJ, just nervous system disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders, orthopedic problems, and so many other different types of conditions that craniosacral therapy helps with. A lot also from my years of working with cranial and just my evolution with my spiritual practices and things, just noticing how the energy of the body, the nervous system, because craniosacral therapy works with the fluids of the body. It also helps with the nervous system. It works with the nervous system, and it also helps with the fascia. And fascia is this white, kind of like this white coating, and it covers everything in the body. It's not only in humans, but it's in animals. Any living, breathing, or not even breathing, well, I guess trees breathe, but there's a rhythm to everything. Life has a rhythm, and Craniosacral therapy is great for animals, the horses and dogs and cats and anything that will sit and let you lay your hands on them in a most gentle, loving way will usually allow that animal or that person will allow you to touch with them. As I was saying, some of the things that I've noticed with cranial and with this, my spirituality is how the energy runs, and when there's, people are having issues with their own life, or they're stressed, or they're having other things going on in their life, that when you do like a dural glide is where you put your hand down by the sacrum, which is down by the lower part of the back into the upper part of the buttocks and underneath their head, and you feel the gentle glide of the spinal fluid going back and forth. And to me, when I'm working with that, I feel honored, because you're now working with the prana, or the life force, or that just the chi that Chinese medicine talks about. And you can feel the glide going back and forth with the fluids. And you can tell when there's restrictions in the spinal column, and just having that gentle touch and allowing that fluid to just gently move back and forth helps relieve those restrictions, and also allows the body to flow better. When you're looking or thinking about the spinal fluid that's in there, you also have to look at the spinal fluid that goes around the brain. There's different ventricles in the brain that the spinal fluid goes through, and it's a way of, one, providing nutrients to the brain, but it's also a cleaning mechanism too. It helps remove waste from the brain. Yes, the brain does have waste that it needs to remove, just like any other cell in the body, but it has to have a system to help with that, and the craniosacral system helps remove those wastes and disperse to the rest of the body. Having your system, in a working, gliding pattern really helps to keep the mind fresh and keep it running smoothly. A lot of times with my clients, I will tell them, when you first get up in the morning, you've been laying flat all night, and your spinal fluid is just sitting there. It's not moving up to par, and sometimes you wake up and you're a little bit groggy, or you're having a hard time getting moving. Well, part of that is because your body has been stagnant for anywhere from 4 to 8 to 10 hours a day, or at night, and so now you're getting up and you're trying to move. And so some of the things we talk about when you come to my office is moving those hips, moving that spinal fluid, moving your back around, moving those shoulders, and you're just doing it gently. You're not forcing anything. You're not making real, hard movements. You allow the body to just kind of start to wake up. And as you do, you're helping that fluid pump up and down your spinal fluid, up and down your spinal column, and that just helps wake the brain up. It's that flow. It's the flow going back and forth up into the brain. Those hips go back and forth, or you make circles around your back, or you move those shoulders, and your brain will start to help wake up. Also, when after you're getting up and moving, it's important to have water at that same time, because you want to flush what your body's been working really hard at night to do. Your body goes through stages when you're sleeping, and that's why sleep is so important. You have the mental stage where the body's cleaning the brain and cleaning just all the emotions and everything else. And then you have the physical cleaning of the body. And Chinese medicine does a great job of describing that with their 5 elements chart. But you want to keep the spinal fluid flowing. If you want more of a sharper mind, that fluid is very important. So instead of your first drink of the day being coffee, you might want to consider having a really tall glass of water to kind of help bring all that together, and so you can release the toxins from that night. Another thing people also, I hear a lot of, I get tired in the afternoon, but they work on their computer all day, they're sitting all day. What I help my patients realize, or my clients realize, is that sitting is just kind of like being in bed all day. And when you're not moving, that spinal fluid gets stagnant. So it's the same concept throughout the day. The more you can get up, the more you can move, the better you are body-wise, but also your brain stays healthier that way too, because you're moving that spinal fluid, and it's helping your mind stay sharper. So with the dural glide and just moving that prana, that chi, that the life force throughout the body, that also helps the organs. The organs also have their own rhythms and flow. So as you're placing this nickel-sized pressure using your hands and just guiding over the body and just using your innate inner physician to look at the body and to allow the person's body to talk to you, you use your hands and you follow the flow. And as we follow the flow, we can feel heat spots, or we can feel like they're called energy cysts, and things kind of get stuck there. Or you can feel the fascia having tension, and if you just keep your hands there and let the body work through, you can release tension, which people who have chronic back pain or neck pain or some of the other things, or the migraines and headaches, that helps release some of that fascia that can get stuck. Bones move, muscles move, tendons move, so things get caught, things get sticky. If you've had, not a lot of water, well, then the body doesn't glide as well inside. And you can feel that when you have somebody on the table, if they haven't had a lot of water, their whole system doesn't glide as well. And so you're just, as you're working through, and, one of the things when they get off the table, you tell people, like, look, it would be in your best interest to drink more water, just get out and move those hips and move your body so that your brain stays more active, and your joints will be more lubricated and be able, less pain with some of this stuff. Water is so important, and clean water. Water, distilled water is the best water you can get. So if you can afford a distiller, using distilled water to have your water would be great. Now, when you're drinking coffee, or you're, having a lot of caffeine, that can also wear on your system. And you don't want to have a day full of coffee all the time. You want to be able to function without a lot of coffee. So the more water you can put in your system, the more you can move, the better you're going to feel. So when you're on the table and we're feeling, after we're feeling the dural glide, and we made sure that your different inlets are released. You know, there's a thoracic inlet, which is your chest area, and then a pan on the back, and you just follow that flow, and you can tell if somebody's, has some emotional um, issues going on in there. And you can say, how are you feeling today? What is going on with your life? And like I had a client today while I was doing cranial. Every time I put my hand over their liver gallbladder, their body just kind of quivered and jumped. And I finally said to this person, I said, what's going on? I'm like, are you mad? Or do you have resentment towards somebody? Is there anger? What's going on? And all of a sudden, this person just starts talking about her son's hockey team and the tournament they just went to, and how things are just not the way they thought they were going to go. And she was just angry and upset that they spent all this money and it wasn't exactly what they thought it was. And as she was talking and letting go and just supporting that area, you could just feel the tissue start to release and let go. And it was amazing that her body stopped quivering or jumping on the table after she just kind of got it all out. And she's like, wow, I didn't realize that this was affecting me so much. And I had said to her, I said, have you been burping? Have you had bloating? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, maybe supporting your body with some herbs might help. And so we discussed some herbs that would help with the liver gallbladder, but it was more of her getting that emotion out of the way so that she felt more calmer. It was like this pent-up energy had just finally just kind of let go. So that's an example of how emotions can really affect the body. And so just supporting that. There's, once you open up the inlet and you work on the brain, you can tell when somebody's just got all these thoughts going on in their head. You can tell when the brain is just like on overdrive, and just supporting with just loving hands and on the head, and just helping the body and the head to just release and let go and follow. You're not forcing anything. You're just using a gentle touch. You're keeping your hands in certain areas so that they can just let the body relax. I have clients who say, I fell asleep. And I said, you know what? I love it when you fall asleep. Because when you fall asleep, that means your body can relax. Your body can do more. You're not using your conscious mind to like, oh my gosh, I got to lay still. I got to do this. I got to do that. Or then there's the laundry list, I've got the laundry. I got to go grocery shopping. I got to pick this child up. I've got this for work to do. And the list goes on. And when you can just lay on the table and just let go, your body does amazing, wonderful things to help restore health and harmony to your body. And one of the other things that I use in my office that all my clients lay on, I use a sound table. The sound table was designed and made by Christopher Timms. And it was one of the best purchases that I've made, because now, while I'm also working on the table with a client, they're getting the vibration and the frequencies of meditation that helps release the cells and produces a cleansing. It also helps relax the body. It helps the mind become more meditative, and their body can just let go. And when you get into that state, healing and more harmony comes to the body, because the body now can do what it's designed to do. The body has never been broken. The body is not just a bag of symptoms. The body can just say, I know how this organism needs to work. And when they're sleeping and they're relaxed, the body can just do what it needs to do. So I'm always glad when my clients are laying and they fall asleep, and some of them snore, and they wake up and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been snoring, or I've done this. And I'm like, perfect. I'm like, that means your body benefited. And sometimes people are like, they'll get off the table and they're like, that was nice, but I'm not quite sure I really got much out of it. You don't realize the power of cranial. Sometimes it's very subtle, but subtleness can be very deep. It can be deep in the tissues, and the tissues are releasing, and the tissues are working at a very microscopic level, and that helps create great health. And that's what the body does. It knows how a properly functioning body works. And so, I also tell my clients that their sessions will last anywhere from 24, 36 hours, sometimes 48 hours. There's these bodies always changing, bodies always moving and grooving. And so, you may not think you got something today, but in a day or two, you'll be like, this feels better, or this feels different. And sometimes people just don't put that correlation together, that their body actually made different changes that actually related back to their craniosacral therapy session. Something else that I also like to do with my cranial, after they're done, I like to spend about 10 to 15 minutes before their session ends and do a level 1 tuning with my tuning forks. Your cranial is just making everything it's clearing, it's reorganizing, it's putting things back together again. And what I love about the tuning forks, after we're done starting from head to toe, or actually toe to head, because I start at the feet, is that the tuning forks go in and it's like a mega clearing. It's taking all the baggage that we just got done messing up and flipping over and fluffing up and making that bed look really nice. Now we're taking those tuning forks in and we're reestablishing great harmony back into the body, and getting rid of the sandbags that have been holding people down. That, oh my gosh, they come in, I feel the weight of the world, or I feel so stressed. I feel like, I can't function, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that. And when they get off the table, they're like, wow, I don't feel anxious anymore. I don't feel stressed right now. My headache is gone. This is the first time I haven't had a headache in days. Wow, my neck is moving better. My hips feel better. Different things in their bodies start to change. And it's all from them being able to relax. The sound table comes in, it's shaking things up, helping their cells reprogram themselves back to their normal, or back to their original frequencies of great health. The cranial comes in, helps release the strictures that are going on, and then you have those tuning forks that come in and retune everything, and you have a new person. You have a new person standing in front of you or sitting in front of you, and they're a lot of times half dazed. They're like, what just happened to me? What'd you do? And it's not what I've done, it's what their body has done and what they've allowed their body to do to help them relax. So it's really neat how craniosacral therapy just really helps the body relax, helps the body just transform, from the time they come in to the time they leave. It takes about, most of my sessions last an hour to an hour and 10 minutes. I tell people to just give it an hour and a half. After their sessions, I talk about, go put your feet in the grass, go hug a tree, go for a walk, be by yourself for 45 minutes to an hour, because you're reprogramming yourself. You don't want to just jump right back into chaos, because then you bring a lot of your sandbags back. You want to just stay in this state of, wow, who am I? What am I? Where am I going? The essential questions of life. And that's what life's about. It's just being in that child state for just a short period of time. And if you can do it more often, that state becomes easier and easier every time you get into it. So that's kind of what craniosacral therapy is like in my office. If someone's really stressed or someone really needs a little more support, I give them exercises to look up breathing exercises, breath work to help calm down the nervous system. Because cranial will last, but as we know, the rest of the world, once you go out there, you're ready to begin bombarded. So giving them tools also to look up with the breath work, chanting, humming, depending on what's going on. Like the client I had today, I said to her, I said, take a pillow and let some of the anger out. I want you to yell. I want you to get that frustration out. The body and our voice and different things that we have a way of helping us release these emotions, the emotions that get stuck in the body, the emotions that if we just don't pay attention to, we need outlets. And so for her, I was like, take a pillow and scream into the pillow. She could scream without the pillow, but sometimes, depending on who's in the house, and you're sitting there screaming, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And you can do that. It's just sometimes it's more comforting if you know that people can't hear you scream. Or singing, singing in the shower or singing in your car, using that voice are different ways to help the body change and release. So those are things that I work with my clients. Craniosacral therapy can also be a spiritual feeling. I have another person that comes in, and when they do, they start chanting. They start humming or chanting while the craniosacral therapy is going on, and we put the blue hue on, and this person just goes into a very big meditative state and just kind of relaxes, and you can feel the body when it's relaxed and in that meditative state, things are moving and grooving, and he's helping his body just transform himself with the cranial and the sound table. It's all conjunctive together. And when he's off the table, he's like, wow, I feel great. He's like, I feel so much lighter. My head feels lighter. And you can tell that he has kind of transformed himself during that session with himself. And it's really neat to watch the spiritual side of people and how that all intertwines with the craniosacral therapy. What else can I tell you about cranial? Things to also think about with cranial is people say it feels like a massage, and it's really not a massage. It's it's a really light touch that just, you're just going over the body with a light touch. You don't get undressed. In my office, the only thing I have people do is take their shoes off, take their coat off, get comfortable on the table. If you want a blanket, we'll put a blanket on you. Whatever makes you comfortable while you're on the table is what we do. We help each person feel just safe and secure. The more you're safe, the more you feel secure, the better your session is. If you feel like you need to get something off your chest, things stay within the walls. Things don't leave this room. Yes, I know we're all one, and it does go out, but just the knowing that someone else isn't going to tell your business somewhere else is very comforting to people. So, there is that spiritual aspect to it. Yeah. I lost my train of thought. Cranial has been studied through many different ways. I mentioned with the head injuries, I do know that Upledger and other organizations work with football players to monitor their head injuries. Other sports teams use craniosacral therapy to help with their teams who might have gotten injured or have had a concussion. I've seen a number of kids in my office with concussions and worked with them. And it's really nice to be able to have something that's very subtle but very powerful at the same time. Helping the brain to just relax and let go and to heal. And that's the whole point, especially when you're dealing with a concussion. You want the brain to heal. When I, start with cranial, I always start at the feet, work with the feet, and I work my way up to the head, and then, just finding the spots in the body and just keep working through it all. So, do I have any questions so far? Does anybody have any comments or questions they'd like to ask? Let's see. How about looking for a practitioner? Looking for a practitioner, you can go to Upledger's website and you can find practitioners. They're all over the world because Upledger has classes all over the world in various countries and provinces, and they will let you know what their skill sets are, and that's a great way to find practitioners. You can just use the old Google machine and look up. A lot of times practitioners put cranial under massage. I am not a massage therapist. I work off of my nursing license, and And so I don't count it as a massage. Um, Even though people will say, well, it feels like a massage, but it really isn't a massage. It's not really deep. And you can go deep, that 5 grams of pressure can sometimes feel like it's really deep down in there, but it's just a very subtle pressure that helps that body to make those changes. You can also, when you're looking for a craniosacral therapist, you can also, what is your philosophy? You can look to see, how they practice. I've had clients come and see me once or twice, and they're like, well, I want to look to see if what someone else is like, and that's great. So they'll go see somebody else, and a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they'll come back and tell me, I went and saw somebody else, but I just like the way you did your cranial. So it's not so much um, the person is just it's just how well we resonate with each other. And that's okay. Some people resonate better with this person than that person. And I don't take offense if someone says, I'm going to go look for somebody else and see how, but a lot of times they end up coming back, and it's just how well we work together, and they don't know what they don't know. So that also, um, you know, if you're looking, if you're not quite sure that person's the right person, try out a few therapists and see. And sometimes you'll realize the first or second one's just as good as the one that you, or better than you had before. So, just keep your options open. Um, is craniosacral safe? It is very safe. There's very few contraindications for cranial, and one of them is any type of surgery to the head. If you've had surgery to a head, or if they've put a shunt in your head, a bleed, any of those kinds of things, we're not able to do cranial on the head for at least 6 months. We want to make sure that that you're healing, and that there's no more bleeding, and that your pressures in your head are normal, and that before craniosacral therapy is started on those. So those are some things to just be mindful. If the neurologist or the surgeon says yes, you're free to have that now, then by all means, it's always beneficial. It's just beneficial for the body to have the cranial done. What else? If you can find people in your area to do multi-session cranial, that's a whole experience in itself, that allows multiple people with multiple hands working on you, and it's a next level up. There's more releasing of the tissue. There can be more releasing of emotions, and it's great because it'll help with just helping your body release and let go, and it's better for your health. What else can I tell you? Other than that, I think that's about it. Let's see, do we have anything else in the chat? I don't see anything. Well, I feel like since we're here, I think I've covered all my bases. I want to thank you for being here, and I'd like to leave with a solstice poem, because we're just only a week and a half out from the solstice, so I feel it might be appropriate right now to do that. So sit back and relax and let me begin. Soul Deep Solstice. Today the light stands still, a golden breath held at the edge of the sky. And so do we, quieting the noise, softening the rush, letting the world fall away until only presence remains. In this pulse, a subtle voice rises, not loud, not urgent, but ancient, like something we once knew before we were born. It speaks in warmth, in the hush of leaves, in the slow turning of the earth towards its fullest light. And as the sun crowns the year, we remember we too are made of radiance. We too are meant to shine from the inside out. So we stand in the longest day, open hearted, listening, letting the light teach us how to be whole again. Craniosacral therapy helps with that too. It's been a pleasure talking with you about craniosacral therapy. Thank you for attending, and there are more things coming along with the Blue Star Connection. I know we have another podcast coming this Wednesday. I'm not quite sure who's going to be on. Look at the emails that Christopher Timms puts out, and I hope you can join the next practitioner from the ministry to hear what wonderful, great things they have at 7:30, Eastern Time. You can also go to ChristopherTimms.com and look up live events and other places where he is at to do other. He does tunings at a lot of the Spirit Fest and some of the different wellness groups. So there's lots of exciting things coming along this July. It's July. No, it's still June. This coming July. And I know he's got a 3-day series coming up, which will be phenomenal. And I hope we hear and see you soon. Thank you.